Anyway, last point on Australia. Of course, Head may have scored that 100, but what really won Australia this game was their fantastic pace bowling. Cummins and Hazelwood took 4 wicket hauls, both of them in the first innings. And then Hoff basically doubled down on that with a fifer in the second innings. Bowled some absolute peaches in this game and would make for great highlight reels. He ended with figures of 9 for 79, which are his career best figures overall. And he's surpassed 250 test scalps for Australia in the process. What a legend of Australian cricket.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those players who just comes at the wrong time, right? Like he's got Pat Cummins at the other end, and he's a not quite as good a version of Glenn McGrath as Glenn McGrath is, right? Like if Hazelwood comes along in the mid-70s with these kinds of numbers, it's an absolute legend, or maybe mid-60s is a better way of looking at it. But Australia's had so many great bowlers around him at all times. But his ability to combine height with accuracy and lateral movement is really, really special. I remember when he was coming through, and I'm trying to remember if Mitchell Starc was part of it. I think when the four of them were coming through, but maybe Mitchell Starc wasn't part of this. But I know that Pattinson, Cummins, and Hazelwood, when they were all coming through, I remember having a podcast with Ed Cowan. And this is, these guys were like 19 at this stage. And I said to Ed Cowan, who do you think will be the best? He said, everyone at that stage thought Cummins would be the best, and he thought that Hazelwood might actually be the best of the three. Sadly, with Pattinson, we never got to see his best. He just was never fit long enough. And if you've ever seen Pattinson bowl one good spell, you will understand why people still talk about him, despite the fact that he never quite made it. But Hazelwood probably isn't better than Cummins, but has been absolutely fantastic. And what I've always liked is the juxtaposition of him and Starc together. There's a little bit of, Wacker and Wasim. Very different kinds of bowlers who have different skill sets, who are good at different times in the game. All those different things that they both have, really, really works quite well, I think, for Australia at the top. And then, of course, Pat takes the ball first change, and good luck to you if you're a young West Indian trying to make your way in the world.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember they did, put up a resistant sort of stand in the first innings. They didn't lose a wicket, and then Cummins came in. I think he removed Tej Narayan, and Cameron Gully took that catch, and he's made quite a reputation for himself. But yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic career, I think, and 250 test wickets is, it's quite an achievement. And he will always go down as the least celebrated of those three. And incidentally, you brought up Pattinson. The last time those guys played together, I reckon it was the Headingley test where Stokes kind of stole the headlines. I think that was that test, right? Where they were like, oh, we're all going to get to play again. But I mean, Hazelwood, really. I mean, he wasn't taking a lot of wickets at the start of the summer. And then he unleashed that over from hell versus Pakistan in the second innings at the SCG, and he hasn't really looked back since. And I was surprised that 9 for 79 are his best figures, because I would have assumed he would have gotten a 10 for at some point. But
I mean, was it Joel Garner? Did Joel Garner never get a 10 for? I'm trying to remember. If you poll in one of those attacks that's stacked, it is just hard to get 50% of the wickets. I don't think Shane Warne got a lot of 10 wicket hauls as well. We've seen great bowlers not get them. I think, obviously, if you're Fazal Mahmood or Richard Hadley or Murali, you have an excess of 10 wicket hauls, but it's because no one can get any other wickets, right? So, those things do happen. It's surprising, but if you look at him, he really, and the other thing I would say for him as a 10 wicket bowler is he really is a new ball specialist. I don't mean he can't bowl after that, because he certainly can. But he is, compared to Cummins and Starc, he is probably the guy who's the most one-dimensional with his usage. But that one dimension is getting out top order players from around the world. So, you take it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely works out for him.